important for the show.
Why is a brand important? If your brand identity isn't strong and it's not recognizable, then there's going to be a huge disconnect between you and your actual audience, the people that you're actually trying to target. So you end up sending the wrong message. You may be having too many messages that aren't choreographed, and they might end up jumbled together. They might not necessarily fit within the same context of the audience and the way that you're trying to communicate to them. So it's extremely important that your brand is concise and that there's congruency throughout the different experiences, platforms, and touch points that your audience is simply trying to engage into. Try using social media monitoring. Look at what your company is being talked about using the @mention, and you can actually find out what other people, as well as customers, maybe people who are involved with your brand, or what they're actually saying about you online. This is a way for you to actually spy on them and get the down low of what's really going on and what people are really saying about you online. You want a brand identity. You want your brand to create awareness. And it's awareness in such a way that they know that it's you because of the experience and the touches that they've had with your specific audience. Maybe it may have been through your product, maybe it's through visiting your shop, maybe it's from ordering from your restaurant. All those single touch points within a specific brand, within the brand experience, that is a part of the entire experience that it entails. So it's not just your actual logo, it's not just what you have to offer within your products and services, it's all those little details that are being involved in everything that's encompassed from the moment that they walk into the door. What is it, the experience that they have when they're walking into the door? How are they being greeted? How long is it taking them to get their food? Now granted, in this context, we're talking about restaurants, but it's still something that's extremely important, and it's something that's valuable to you and your audience. So let's define personal branding. What does personal branding mean? In a personal context, personal branding it's an ongoing process of a specific image, of a specific medium, of a specific identity that goes on across different points within your personal encounters. Now, these personal encounters, they can vary from things like the way that you meet someone at a networking event. It could be your LinkedIn profile. It could be your personal image. Maybe there's a stylization. Maybe you're known for your hair. Maybe you're known for wearing a specific pair of shoes. Maybe you're known for not wearing clothes at all. There's various different ways that you can actually use to identify and actually reach into your personal brand and developing that on a one-to-one level. What is needed for a brand in order to be successful? The first thing you're going to need is planning. Planning is extremely important. The reason why you need to plan is you need to know in advance exactly what it is that you're going to do. You need to know how your brand is going to look, how it's going to feel, what are all the social media channels that your audience is actually on. Are they on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram? Are they on Snapchat? Are they not on social media at all and they're still relying on the old snail mail in order to get in touch with you? When you're planning your actual brand, you're planning the way that you want your brand to be perceived by the audience, and you're doing it in advance by actually understand what your audience actually values. Why do you think that one musician can actually own the crowd, and he can engage with them, and he can wave his hand like a wand and get this entire audience of thousands of people to move at his beck and call? That's audience engagement. That's the way, because he's actually understanding, he's actually felt what's going on in the room with his audience, and he actually gauges his performance and the way that he responds and reacts to them based on that feedback. Assessment and monitoring. You can go back and you actually look and do an audit on your actual brand. How's it currently performing? How are people currently interacting? What do your employees think of your brand? You can go back, you can actually ask your employees, what do you think of the current state of our business? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about coming to work every morning? Do you always spend the entire week looking forward to Friday? By gathering this information and learning what's happening in real time from the people who are actually in the actual business, you can gain a new perspective of what your company culture actually values and some other areas that they can actually improve on with your help. Plus, by actually getting this information on them, from them directly, they'll feel more connected to you and actually feel that you're actually listening to their complaints and actually responding in real time with something that will actually benefit the entire culture, its employees, as well as your competitors, are things that you can actually look at to actually bring that fulfillment back again in the long run.
Take 2, 3, 2, 1.
Try using social media monitoring. Look at what your company is being talked about using the @mention, and you can actually find out what other people, as well as customers, maybe people who are involved with your brand, or what they're actually saying about you online. This is a way for you to actually spy on them and get the down low of what's really going on and what people are really saying about you online. When it comes to addressing feedback, be concise and be very transparent with your actual customers and consumers. Feel free to jump in there and talk to them and really address and get to the bottom of their issues. Figure out what their concerns are, maybe some turn-offs and things maybe they had during the process of experiencing your brand, and always find ways to rectify the situation. Sometimes it may not be enough, or it may not even be important to give them a refund. Maybe it was a lack of specific. So when it comes to actually resolving issues that are happening with your customers, feel free to jump in there, talk to them, listen to them, and figure out what's going on and how you can actually rectify the situation. Maybe they don't want a refund. Maybe they didn't get as much information as they needed to actually feel fulfilled on the product. Maybe they didn't get all the information that they actually wanted, and maybe there is actually other points within the actual experience that they want to use and leverage with the products and services that you've offered. Maybe they do want a refund. In that case, you might want to give it to them. Maybe they want to spend more money, or maybe the problem that they had didn't necessarily fulfill the needs that they actually needed resolved in the first place. Building consistency. Building consistency is paramount to actually building any type of brand. Anything from the images to the color to the actual voice and the narratives that are being used. Once your audience has gotten used to that level of consistency all the way across the board, what happens is that it builds trust, and that trust comes from that consistent connectivity that actually happens. So it's important to deliver on your actual promises and do what it is that you say that you are going to do. Granted, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect, and I've screwed up in this area, but there's not something that you can't come back from, and it's not something that you're actually doomed to. Nothing is ever fixed, and things are always changing and growing. So in that regard, yeah, make sure to brush up, or to make sure that everything is consistent, having a checklist, making sure you're delivering on every single thing that you're saying that you're going to deliver on, and maybe making notes of everything that has to be delivered, and a strategic process to make sure that everything is concise and the way that you actually ensured based on the brand values that you have promised to your audience. Delivering on your brand promise. When you're delivering on your brand promise, you want to make sure that everything that you say that you're going to do, that you actually delivered on. Now, granted, nobody's perfect. I've messed up on this, and I've been making efforts to actually recover on this within certain segments. But beside from that, anytime that you actually make a promise to your brand, make sure that you actually deliver that to the customer. If you have to make a checklist, go ahead and do that. If you have a quality assurance application or program, make sure that you abide by that, so that the entire experience that your customers are expecting are consistently delivered across the board.
You're not just some guy in a boardroom with a blank background. You have a casual shirt on, you know, and it feels like you're talking casually, but you're talking about something specific.
Okay.
So that makes it interesting, and it is interesting. But I'm not interested in branding necessarily.
Right.
But people who are interested in branding, I think they would go with this. And like the new kids on the block, people going like to Google and Apple, they're casual. You know, I think Apple's all casual. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, everyone's going casual right now because they know that the bigwigs are out of touch. Yeah. That's really it. So I mean, they're out of touch with what's happening. It's not that they're not important. They are, but they're out of touch with what's going on. So because everyone's going casual, because, you know, people are getting tattoos on their face and it's not that big of a deal anymore, because it's happening, people are like, oh, okay, well, this is the direction that the new culture is going in. And you really can't say that, oh, well, you know, these are just some, you know, crazy millennials. It's like, no, they are in touch with what's going on in the marketplace. And so there's this huge advantage of actually having people that are involved. Let me ask you a question. Miss, can I ask you a question? No? Okay, you don't have to be on camera. All right, so what do you think of the way that social media is impacting, let's say, businesses, like corporate culture?
That's $1 million question.
It's $1 million question. All right, Well, here's my 2 cents on that $1 million question. So here's my 2 cents on that $1 million question, all right? Things are changing. Things are constantly changing. And for some strange reason, people think that because things are changing in our realm, that they're not supposed to, that it's supposed to stay the same that it always was. But I like the fact that things are coming 360 degrees around. I like the fact that things are constantly changing. I like the fact that we don't know exactly what this whole internet thing actually is. We really have no clue. We know it holds information, but it's, at this point, everything that we're touching is social media. And it's complete wild, wild west. Bitcoin is changing a lot, and I'm not going to talk about that because I don't know anything about it. But here's what I do know, is that human beings are actually coming out and they're putting themselves out there, and you can no longer hide. So all any dirty laundry that people want to put out there, they'll have free reign to put all that news and all that information out there. Is it true or not? I don't know. Is it relevant? I don't know. But what I do know is that everybody has full access to do whatever it is that they want to do. They have freedom to create, to explore, to explain, to give, to share, to love, to criticize. It's complete free reign to do whatever you want. And all the walls that have been built up over all these years have been completely demolished. And that's corrupting and that's destroying a lot of industries. And that's sending a lot of people backwards because people are trying to hide behind these walls. That was my rant. I'm not sure why I'm ranting on that right now, but it is what it is. So I guess let's go ahead and get back to the freaking show. What are some good ways to actually make your personal brand? Making your personal brand, you don't have to fake it till you make it. You don't have to, there's no magical point where all of a sudden you can pretend and then all of a sudden you magically become it. What you do is you simply start off where you are. Be where you are, currently where you are, be 100% honest about where you're starting at and actually building up from that point. There's a lot of people that want to pretend that they're actually further than they actually are. And hey, I totally get that. You might use we inside of your personal brand when it's just you, like on your website or something on social media. That's perfectly fine. There might be other people that are actually involved in actually helping you build this, and that's perfectly okay. You might be a one-stop shop, you might be a solopreneur, you might be a medium company, you might be a large company. Here's my point. None of that crap matters. It doesn't matter who is involved. It doesn't matter where you're starting at. You might be starting in a single 200 square foot bedroom. It doesn't matter. You might have this huge loft that you're working from. It doesn't matter. The idea is just to start and simply be authentically yourself. You can spend time trying to trick people and trying to fool them into thinking that you're way better than you actually are. But the truth actually comes out, and people are getting exposed. People can actually see through what's going on. And when there's an incongruency in who you actually are and who you're portraying yourself to be, that becomes obvious. And own who you are. It's okay to be from a certain starting point. When you're asking yourself, how am I going to develop my brand, or how should I start my brand? Ask yourself, who am I? What are my values? What's important to me? Do I value time? Do I value significance? Do I value being loved? Do I value connection? Do I value time? What do I value quality? What are the personal values that I have to offer that I want to bring to the table, that I want to bring into the world? Maybe you're a talented videographer, like Eric. He's a rockin' videographer. Maybe you can compose music like Mozart. Maybe you can't. Maybe you just started skateboarding or cooking or wakeboarding or whatever it is. Whatever it is that you love to do, whatever it is that you like, that you enjoy, that's your passion, that's your hobby, that you can talk about all day long without a single thought. Maybe it's designing logos. Maybe it's designing websites. Maybe it's actually building big businesses. All of these things that are actually being used and manipulated for different platforms can be highly taken advantage of. And you don't want to, I know that you may not have as much time, and you're like, Kendall, I've got so many different things that I'm doing. I don't want to do all this stuff by myself, and I don't have that much time. How do I actually use a single piece of content to actually repurpose it for different platforms? Well, let me tell you. One of the more interesting ways to use these pieces for the platform is to go ahead and distribute it. You can use different tools to actually have it in one click and actually distribute it among these different channels that you're actually using. Just don't forget to actually respond, apply, and actually use that to leverage, to actually build a relationship with your audience and actually get that communication going across all the different frequencies. You can even go to public
there are tons of places you can go. One of my favorites is meetup.com. You can go to meetup events, you can find events and interests for almost anything. And there's a group for all different kinds of purposes. So by using Meetup, you can go to consistent meetups or going to one meetup consistently. That's the idea here. Now you don't want to go to a bunch of different meetup groups and think you're going to gain traction. That's kind of spreading yourself too thin. But if you go to one meetup group consistently, what happens is that you begin to build leverage because people get used to you, they get comfortable, they begin to value your ideas, and they begin to think of you top of mind about you're the go-to person in that particular field that you can actually use to help people refer you to businesses when someone actually needs your product or service. You can create articles and blog posts. If you're a writer, go ahead and create an article. You can publish things on sites like Medium, publish them to your website, and disperse them throughout different platforms. If you like to do video, you can use YouTube, and you can actually integrate these YouTube videos to actually use with your audience. They'll actually play out a huge part to actually make things really valuable. Now, videos are really, really huge right now, just in case you didn't notice. But you can actually use the video content that you're actually making, cut out the actual audio, and actually use that either as a podcast or in an audio format, or convert that language into written form. The great thing about actually using all of this content is that you can actually repurpose it for different platforms. For example, you can use certain tidbits and certain excerpts for really short quotes and things that are really punchy, and really use that to actually publish that on Instagram and use that as inspirational quotes, which are hugely, hugely popular right now. Or you can take other small pieces of the audio and actually function it as a 10-second clip or a 60-second clip for Instagram.